bring up the Christian conservative Tupac, Dave Smith. Thank you very much for joining us. And I gotta rib you a little bit because I promised somebody in the chat that I'd ask.
What?
How did
That's
the
not what I agreed on.
how did the basketball with Big J go?
I
Basketball game
dominated. I
from
didn't
the
miss. I didn't
bench.
miss one shot. What are you talking about? I never said I was going to go. I was very clear.
It's good. We're not all cut out for athletics.
No,
Most
I'm a way better basketball player than Jay or Lewis. I just didn't want to go. What is this?
fair enough. Fair enough.
I
It's
thought
me.
this was.
It's me paying a commenter back.
Oh man,
We're here for the people.
I always knew you were the real cult leader here. People say it's me, but everyone's
People have
following
no
you.
idea. They'll see soon. But thank you for joining us tonight, Dave. We talked a little bit earlier about what we want to talk about, and I think a big part of what we should talk about is I kind of made mention of this earlier is the future of the party and the future of the caucus, and what role does the Libertarian Party play in a healthy liberty movement? Like what is its function within the liberty movement if it was operating healthy, and what do you see that as, and how can we work towards that?
Well, I mean, at the very least, right? I mean, this is like there's a lot of like opportunities and options in today's landscape, but at the absolute bare minimum, right? Like you would think that what the Libertarian Party would be here to do would be to let people know what a libertarian is and what our position is, like at the very least. And that may seem like not that important of a thing, but to me, it's actually like an incredibly important thing. Like the idea that, like me and you talk about this a lot, and it's something we really see eye to eye on. The idea that the enemies of liberty are constantly perverting the language. Like this is a huge part of their tactics, is that whatever, this is why even little things that seem silly, like silence is violence or something like that. Like, no, that's a really powerful thing. Even something like microaggressions, redefining what an aggression is. They're constantly doing this. And if we just can't even let people know, no, this is what the libertarian position is. This is what a libertarian is. And they have these ideas that are, if you were just paying attention to the Libertarian Party over the last decade, you would have these wildly, different ideas about what it means to be a libertarian than what we believe it is. And so at the very least, I think if there's going to be a party with our name on it, that in itself is worth fighting for, to make sure that they're representing our name the way it's supposed to be represented.
Yeah, and that brings me to a point, because even in some of our libertarian circles, I've seen, I mean, they probably wouldn't call it this, but I see a resignation almost. Like, I see some people in libertarian circles who are like, well, maybe the word libertarian has outlived its usefulness. And, some of these people are people that I love and respect a lot. And but I don't know, man. I just find that to be crazy, because like if we understand that we're going to have to be a cultural movement to progress forward, well, one of the mainstays of culture is language, and we have one very little linguistic domain from which we can stand and build our base, and that's got to be the thing that we drive forward into the culture. And I think maintaining who we are and what we are with that title, because a title is, naming something is the thing that makes it real, and that's how we're gonna have to take that linguistic domain, build on it, and drive forward. And you're on the cutting edge of that.
Yeah, and look, I'll say that there's been some of the people, and these are people who I have tremendous respect for. I know there's some of the people that you're thinking about in when you just said that, but I don't think there's anything I don't think there's anything wrong with naming them, because they've said this publicly. And as I said, I have tremendous respect for these people. But look, Jeff Deist and Hans Hermann Hoppe have both not necessarily said that we should abandon the term libertarian, but certainly questioned whether this term has outlived its usefulness. Is it getting to a point where it's so meaningless, like the term liberal, became? Is it getting to that point where maybe we just shouldn't even use this anymore? And to me, I just look at this and go, wait a minute, hold on. Are we going to pretend that the Ron Paul revolution didn't just happen? Like that we didn't just see the one time, and this is kind of, I think, right at the heart of our project here, right? Is that, look, if you think about from our perspective, like the best of what it is to be a libertarian, like that real libertarian shit, who has ever stood on a stage in front of millions of people and really expressed it? Who? One guy. One guy.
I mean, I would argue in the way that he did it, Ron did it, but I think you could also make a case. She's not libertarian per se, but Ayn Rand, Milton Friedman, like
Yeah,
they
okay,
got
so
a lot of mainstream
let me
spotlight. But yes,
well,
Ron
okay.
stands alone.
Well, look, even Milton Friedman, the truth is, was not like of the libertarian shit that we're talking about, you know?
Correct. Yeah.
Ayn Rand, yes. Okay. So let me rephrase. In the last 40 years,
Yeah.
who's
in our lifetimes, yeah.
right, you know, like in since we've been alive, honestly. I mean, okay, maybe I don't know when Ayn Rand on Donahue was in, I think, the 70s, right? But okay, I'll grant you that. Since then, who's done it? It's Ron Paul. He's the guy. Well, look, so you have Ron Paul. He gets up there. He's the one time that there's a candidate who's really representing, I mean, I'm talking about hardcore libertarian principles to the masses in a serious way with someone who really knows their stuff. You know what I mean? Not like some of the goofy kind of radical, you know, candidates that unfortunately, you know, our party has been too accustomed to running. And when he does this, it generates enormous interest. Millions of people are converted. You know, tens of millions of people are interested. The entire Republican Party was influenced by this. I mean, they freaking became rhetorically the anti-war party after this. Not, you know, they don't govern that way, but still, that's something. You know, their base cheers now when you say end all the wars. People got interested in monetary policy. It was this huge phenomenon. Now, I know there's a lot of people out there who get frustrated and say, yeah, but it didn't work. Everything wasn't solved. And it's like, yeah, well, this was step one. This was like the first time it had ever been done. And then in 2012, it was way bigger than it was in 2008. And now I look around and I go, well, look, every time I go on big platforms, you know, we generate a tremendous positive response. You know, me and you go on Tim Pool and we're talking to millions of people, overwhelmingly positive reaction. I go on Rogan, I'm talking to tens of millions of people, overwhelmingly positive reaction. All these different platforms. And it's like, why would I be abandoning this word instead of reclaiming it? Like, you know, when Rothbard in the 90s, like in 90 and 91, when Rothbard left the Libertarian Party and started identifying as a paleo-libertarian, you know, if you go back and read those pieces, part of what he said was like, we're completely outnumbered here. You know, they wanted a term that kind of differentiated them from the kind of libertines who were watering down the idea of libertarianism and associating it with all of this kind of like nihilism and degeneracy and all of this stuff. And he was like, well, look, we're a minority. We're a small minority here. So we're just going to call ourselves a different thing and go try to influence a different group of people. But like, why should we do that now when we're the overwhelming majority? And I don't just mean that we're the majority in the Libertarian Party, which we are now, but if you take all of the Ron Paulian libertarians who aren't in the party and include the Mises Caucus with that, we're like it's like they're a little speck and we're a sea around them. Why would I let why would we cede our word, Rothbard's word and Ron Paul's word, to a group of people who we have way better arguments than, way more numbers than, way more influence than? It just seems to me like, no, this is the time to fight for this and take and really take, you know, the steering wheel, which is what we're about to do. And I'm excited for what this is going to mean. The idea that there could be a viable third party that's actually telling the truth, that's actually putting things forward in a way that's serious and compelling and can really change the narrative of what the other two parties have to talk about now. I think there's a lot of opportunity here. That's really exciting.
This is why you're the messenger and I'm the organizer.
Well, that's the thing. I've been involved with the LP for 10 years or so, off and on. And we spend a lot of time debating about how to package the message and thinking about, oh, well, if we say this, what are people going to think of us? And a lot of us, you know, the Gary Johnson years, you know, we want to look good for the, you know, the mainstream corporate media and the way things used to be. But what Ron Paul did and what I think we're trying to do with the Mises Caucus is not obsess about what we call ourselves or how we're going to be perceived, but just preach the message, right? Just tell people what they need to hear. And that's why I think, Dave, you talk about getting a good response in places. I mean, I got to think that's what gets the good response is that you're not posturing, you're just speaking from the heart about what libertarianism is, which is, you've described it as this beautiful political philosophy that a lot of people don't know about because we haven't been bold enough to tell them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, no one knows it. I mean, like, in the grand scheme of things, no one really knows this. And that's what's exciting about it. And of course, like, if you really have it, it's so strange because it's like, if you really believe this shit, and that's basically, I think, the essence of my strength is that I really believe this shit, like
Yeah.
that's, and people can read that on me, that I'm not like putting on some act here. Like, I'm telling you what I really believe. That doesn't mean I'm right about everything. I just happen to be right about everything. And since I'm right about everything, it's, and all of us are. We're right about this. This is correct. Libertarianism is correct. We have the correct diagnosis for these problems. And if that's the case, then of course, wouldn't you be confident that that's going to be compelling when people hear about this? And this is something that, like, some of the people who have gotten like frustrated and moved away from what we're doing here, who like used to be a part of it and are just like, well, now it's all hopeless and stuff like that camp. And they'll say things like, look, everyone's already heard about this and they've decided they've rejected it.
No
and I just
way.
think that's like, it's so insane. It's so insane to think that. Like, literally, go stop your random person on the street and ask them, like, what do you think about Austrian business cycle theory? Or what do you think about the genocide in Yemen or whatever? It's like, they've never heard of it. That's the truth. I'm not saying like, I bet that guy's never heard of it. I promise you that guy's never heard of it. I promise you that guy, and the one time we had Ron Paul up there, it generated all of this interest. And I'm out here constantly, like, this is what I do. I'm always like introducing this to people who have never heard of it, and they get interested. Now, I'm not saying 100% of people, I'm not even saying the majority of people, but there are large numbers of people who can be brought over to our cause. So what are we going to do? Not try? When we're up against the threat that we're up against right now, like these like evil maniacs are controlling society, and we have the best opportunity we've ever had. What's your answer? Not attempt to go for it. So I just think this is obvious to me, and it's the old Ron Paul lesson: tell the truth.
Right, and that's the thing is, it's not something mystical and magical and individual to Ron, so to speak, that made him have that effect. It was those characteristics. He just told the truth. He was consistent for 40 years. And anybody can embody that. I mean, I don't know if anybody will ever quite embody his like, country doctor, just, his good natured and all that stuff. But my point is those are things that are timeless. And that's what's drawing people to the caucus, is that we're just following the same blueprint that already works. And that's how we're looking at it, is that Ron laid the blueprint. And we have the benefit now of, there are so many young people who never experienced a liberty movement that was powerful and growing, and they might have been too young for the Ron Paul thing, and we are the old people now. It's friggin' weird. I'm 32 years old and I'm the old guy now, and but we get to be all of the sprouts from that can then plant more seeds with that many more people and go exponential, because of the fact that the media is not the monolith that it used to be.
Yeah. And man, Michael, this is like where I got to give you a lot of credit for this, man, because I'm just like so fucking proud of you, dude. And especially like seeing that everything tonight, and like everybody involved in the Mises Caucus. But I'm really so fucking proud of you, dude. Like I remember the first time I ever heard your voice or heard of you was on the Tom Woods show in 2017 when you did that. And it got me really excited. Like, I was like, God damn, I really love what this guy is saying. And it's funny, I just recently went back and listened to that podcast.
Oh, I hate doing that.
Well, no, but it was cool, man, because it was like going back to like, oh yeah, well, how did I get like so into this whole Mises Caucus thing? And And by the way, there was nothing. There was almost nothing. I think there was one point in the interview where Tom asked you. He was like, "Well, the current chair really kind of sucks," or something, and you were like, "Yeah, it's not good." But the whole thing was just about. It wasn't about like any of the fucking enemies, the loser brigade, anything like that. It was all just about what your positive vision was for what the Libertarian Party should be and how it should be the continuation of the Ron Paul revolution. And it shouldn't look like Bill Weld. It should look like Ron Paul and all of this. And I heard that and I was just like, man, I just love what this guy has to say. And then I had you on my podcast and I loved what you had to say there. And I still didn't join for like another year or something. But then a year later in 2018, I joined. And then I didn't really get as active until like 2019. And then really after the 2020 election, I was like, okay, I'm doubling down and we're really doing shit here. But it's incredible what you've created here, man.
I'm sorry to cut you off.
I'm praising you. This is the part you let me go.
No, that's where exactly where to cut you off. Thomas Fitzsimmons for $420. So we're now at $28,220. And again, if we hit $30,000 here tonight, Dave, you saw that ad that the party had put out, that promo video for like the COVID regime, and you know they did a fundraiser off that. Mm-hmm. They hit something like 30 grand. It might have been 32. I don't know, but we're calling it 30. And we're gonna beat the National Party's biggest fundraiser of the year if we raise just $1,800 more
in a much shorter period of time.
Yeah. Since Friday.
Yeah. Well, let me just finish praising you on this, because I'll tell you that like I really. Number one, I would say that one of the things that got me so excited about what you were saying when I first heard you back on the Tom Woods show was that I was kind of in this weird position where I was brought in the Ron Paul movement, and it was such an exciting time for people who like remember back then. It was incredible. So I was brought in then, but I wasn't like anybody. I was just some guy. I just started doing stand-up comedy, and I was just like, oh, okay, I love these ideas, and I'm obsessively reading about them. And then like around 2012, I started doing Part of the Problem. And then Ron Paul retired from Congress the following year, and then it was like and then I started like building an audience as the Ron Paul thing started dying out. And as I was getting like a bigger audience, it was almost like the movement had completely like settled down. And I was like, so now I'm bigger, but the movement is way smaller. And I was always rooting for the Ron Paul part 2. Like, when are we going to have our next libertarian moment? And dude, you really created that. And like, you deserve a lot of credit for this. That one of the criticisms that gets leveled at you in the Mises Caucus from the critics in the Libertarian Party is that there aren't regular elections for who's the chair of the Mises Caucus. Like, they go, Michael Heise is the chair for life or whatever, and how are you going to vote him out or something? Which totally makes sense if you're a democratic socialist. Like, that completely makes sense that would be your criticism of the Mises Caucus. If you're a libertarian, it doesn't make any sense at all. But the truth is that it's almost like you have to explain market forces to these people, which you wouldn't think you'd have to explain to libertarians. But the reason why you have this position is because we all believe in you and love you. And like, that's why, like, and like, look, dude, it's the same thing I have. Everyone could stop listening to me tomorrow, and I have nothing. I have no power over them. I wasn't elected to this fucking position of biggest libertarian podcaster, but I just have to keep convincing them that this is worth listening to because they want to hear what I have to say. And you've really done an amazing job. I mean, look at this, dude. This is incredible. We're about to go take control of this party, and we're fucking. What was the goal that you set out to raise here?
30.
Well, actually, we started on Friday at 7,000, and went past that, and here we are. Hey, Dave, I wanted to get your opinion on something. How you feel about what you talked about at the Take Human Action Bash at the Pennsylvania Convention, like more than almost a year ago. I think it was last May. Mm-hmm. Talking about how to act toward other libertarians. And one thing I've already been looking forward to, and I know those of us on XCOM at the Mises Caucus has been like, we want to make an effort to not like dunk on people. And like, we want to bring as many people of the Liberty movement into the Libertarian Party and keep as many of them. We're not trying to run anybody off who wants to work and do so in good faith. How are we going to do that? I know you
This is a
gave a
good
really good
segue.
speech about that, but I want to see if your thoughts have changed over the last 11 months or so, and give us some advice on how we should act going forward, assuming the Reno reset happens as planned.
I was wrong. Let's purge them all. Let's get them all out. No, look,
Dave, this is live. Dave, this is live.
we're live.
We got to
This is
retake
live.
that. Yeah,
This whole thing is live.
Yeah.
Even when I was complimenting Heise, people
Yeah,
can hear
yeah.
that.
Yeah.
I thought we were having a private Zoom call. All right. Well, no. Look, I mean, I think that there are like I agree. You know, I still feel the same way that I felt back then. I do think that what you said is an important caveat. I think it's people who are here to work. You know, and people who are really here, like there are a small handful of people who, yeah, we'd probably just be better off without, but they're going to leave on their own anyway. And then they're just going to keep bitching and moaning from the sidelines. And I think the best thing to do there is to just ignore those people. And they don't matter anyway. The same
Well,
way
let me wade into that.
Sure.
Because the thing I spoke about this earlier about how we have to be a principled libertarian party. We have to get back on the original founding trajectory that the party was set on, and they didn't have the benefit of the post Ron Paul era and the post internet and social media era and yada yada, the post media era, which is really fucking cool. And but the other thing, there's something that we need more than principle. We absolutely need principle. I'm not trying to make light of that, but we need character, because that's the thing that made the friggin' Ron Paul thing so nuts. Is the character.
Oh yeah, of course.
And so, but and that's what we have to do. Now, I'm not going to tell people not to do anything. That's not going to work. The way I like, don't celebrate and all that kind of stuff. What I'm going to say is do your touchdown dance, but then there really is, the party really is made up of more than Mises and Sarwarks. There really is a group of people out there that have been here for say 10, 20, plus years, who have just been getting the signatures, and they just want people on the friggin' ballot, and they just want to see the party do good work, and they just want people to help them and all this shit. And, it's very important to me that we show them that, we're okay. Yes, we are taking a different strategic track.
Yeah.
We're shifting trajectory a little bit, but that, that vision includes you. Now, if you're a state and you're here to drag everybody down and you're here to make this a clown show and you do that, fuck you. But then everybody else, we want to work with you. And that's how we've always been. And the people who are on the ground in the States know this.
Yeah. And so just to kind of answer Aaron's question, like first, it's like the way you do it, I almost think is like the same way that I was saying that like Heise brought me into this movement, in the same way that I maintain my audience, is you start demonstrating like this is what look, there's going to be a lot of people, and watch this. There's going to be a lot of people who, after we grab the steering wheel of this party, are going to be flooding in to the party from the libertarian movement. And I'm saying at the beginning, from the liberty movement, then we'll be able to kind of like get bigger platforms and bring more people and convert more people. But you do this thing where it's like there are a lot of people who didn't really believe in the system, didn't really believe in voting, who are going to Ron Paul rallies and voted for Ron Paul because what he's saying is just so goddamn compelling that you're like, shit, I'm going to go with this guy because this is just so awesome. That's what you have to do. You have to tug at people's guts and spleen and insides and make them be like, yeah, this is inspiring me. And you do that by relentlessly focusing around the issues that matter the most. And that's what we always talk about. Opposing the COVID regime, opposing the wars, opposing the police state, opposing the spying apparatus, opposing the war on terror, and of course the war on terrorism that is now the war on the American people.
Dave, we are 4 minutes before the end, but we're also only $400 away from that $30,000 goal. Do you want to go another 10, 15?
Sure. Let's go till we hit it.
Okay.
And then to your point, Michael, I think it's important for us to realize that, like, sometimes it's like, I don't know, like, like if you were to use a war analogy, which is, I know, not the most libertarian thing, right? But like you might need in a war, like in an old timey war or something like that, you might need like the biggest, baddest dudes you have out on the horses in the front line. You know what I mean? But then you also probably need some really smart nerd in the back drawing up the plans. You know what I mean? Like there's like, you need all of these different people. And okay, there are people like me and like you guys who are kind of like willing to like be on camera and take all the hits and say the difficult thing to say and get called all these mean names and stuff like that. But the fact that there's other people in the Libertarian Party who aren't the like, you know, the like kind of, I don't know, deranged maniacs that we were talking about before, but are actually like, they're good libertarians and they would be supportive when we take over the same way as they would be supportive if we didn't. A lot of those people maybe won't take like be outspoken, but like you said, they will go collect signatures in the rain. They will do all this shit, and we need those people as well.
I think Laney's hitting us with an update here. You got to unmute. Hang on, I got you.
Oh, I got her.
I think I just remuted her.
Getting too excited here. It looks like we're about to hit this any minute. So this is incredible. One quick update I will say is that just in the time that, oh my gosh, and we just did it right there.
We should still go further because we already said we were going to.
Sure.
Yeah, Dave, you're in for 10 to 15 minutes. We got you for that now. That is incredible.
Thank you, Jay.
There you go.
JR, thank you, JR Hasselhoff. He's a longtime supporter from Texas. He is the man. Luke Troxel, one of our organizers. Again, he puts in that groundwork and he's putting money in. That's incredible. Thank you, dude. Thank you to everyone that helped us. This is honestly shocking to me. Like, and like, I'm not bullshitting. I'm not like, ask everybody on the team. I can't shake it. I don't know if you go through this when you go to comedy shows and shit, Dave, but like, I still have this feeling that I can't shake of like, no one's going to fucking show up. You know what I mean? Like no one really cares. And like, it just blows me away whenever this kind of shit happens, man.
Oh yeah. I always do that too. Like after every like couple months, I was talking to my buddy Nate Bargatze, who's like a really great comedian who I started, or he started before me, but we were like very good friends. And I said we always have this feeling where we go, I think I'm out of jokes. I think that's it. I don't think I'll ever come up with another one. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It's like if you just haven't written anything in a month, you're like, I guess I'll just never think of another one. And yeah, I feel that way all the time, man. Just things where you're like, that's probably the last big show I'll ever do. I'll probably never have this again. And but it's I think it's good. I think it's good to like stay humble and be like, you know, appreciate this is really fucking cool what we're doing. We're really lucky to be in the position we are. I'm very I hate when people use the word humbled for something that shouldn't apply to that, but I'm really grateful that like all of the people like work so hard within my camp to kind of allow me to be in the position that I'm in. And I think we should always try to keep that in mind. I'm really grateful for everyone who donated and everyone who's working. This is really what's really cool about the Mises Caucus, and this is a massive team effort. And I've really gotten to see that as I've gone around the country to all these state conventions. And just as I go around the country and do my shows and stuff, I always have Mises Caucus people come out to everything I do now. And it's like, dude, this doesn't work unless everybody is like kind of doing their part and their role. And I'm sure there's a lot of people who are doing roles sometimes that aren't that fun and aren't that like immediately gratifying and rewarding. But if they weren't doing that, then this whole thing doesn't come together. So it's really beautiful in the most like, you know, eye pencil type of beautiful decentralized way where everybody's doing this thing. No, it's all voluntary. No one's being forced into it. And what there's kind of like this weird thread that keeps all of us together is that we all really believe in this same shit, which is human beings ought to be free. And I don't know how to just, there's something like, it's godlike how inspiring
it's
all
a
that is
faith.
to me.
That's what you're getting at. It's the belief is a faith. We have faith in humanity, and liberty unlocks the deepest potential of humanity. And we believe in that, and we have faith in that. And that's a word that I use a lot in this whole game that I don't really hear a lot of other people use, but it really is. It's a faith.
Yeah, I'm one of the most black-pilled people I know in general, just about life most of the time. But this has been really healthy for me to see, you know, what we can do. Like when I, you know, first messaged Mike on Facebook almost 4 years ago, I didn't know we were going to get this far. And every time I see somebody else come in and, you know, just it is mind blowing. And we just need to keep that spirit going. And you need to show up to Reno. I'm always a little worried that something's going to go wrong. But if we all show up, we've got this money. all of our delegates are going to get there who can possibly get there. The sky's the limit. I'm really proud. I'm just amazed that we have this much in the way of resources to help us get this over the goal line. So,
and then I want to give one more shout out. Dave, if you said you went back and watched that old Tom episode, and back then, I it wasn't as serious, like everything wasn't as crazy as it is now. So like I had this gnarly beard, and you can kind of track how serious I'm taking things by like bringing that beard down. And my wife really appreciates you guys making this a serious thing for me. Like, yeah.
That's good.
I've got
that's really.
Oh, go ahead, Dave.
No, I was going to say that's really what this mission has always been about. It's just trying to help Emily out a little bit.
Yeah. All right, so we said we were going to talk about this, and we didn't, and we got 12 minutes left. The future, what happens after the takeover? That's the thing that I know. Again, we have a lot of internal chatter. We know what we're doing after the takeover, and but a lot of other people don't, and that cause them to be a little frightened, and they say, well, they don't have a plan, and what's the plan? Well, first of all, the friggin' party hasn't had a plan for a long time, but I would say our plan is, I guess I'll let the cat out of the bag. Fundamentally, what we're doing is Hoppian. That's always been the strategy and the goal and the core of this, is that we're arranging this organizational apparatus around the country. So like if Mike Rufo and Todd Hagopian and all that stuff, like all of these guys that we've had on here tonight, if we have the ability to elect them once now, and we have the ability to raise money like this, $30,000, $31,000. Somebody hit me with 88 or 78, $31,000, since Friday, and we can get 250 organizers. We are no longer going to be strictly bound by the trappings of democracy to dictate the future of the Libertarian Party. We have an organizational apparatus that can kind of, let's say, guide those democratic results and therefore allow you to implement a longer plan. And that I don't believe has ever been done in the history of the Libertarian Party. I mean, right now the plan is something like, well, I hope we can bitch and moan our way into the presidential debates, and so our plan is to bring people like you, because there was a time when Rothbard was in the movement, in the party. All of the intellectuals were in the movement or in the party, and they were driving it forward. Those days are, well, they're here again now, but they've been gone for a long time. So the idea is that we elevate those voices, infiltrate the culture through the platform, national messaging, and then filter that down into local activity, building local level candidates, running city council races. They want to bitch their way into the debates. I want 5,000 city councilors, and mayors and sheriffs and judges and all this stuff. And so that we can have wide scale nullification. And then if, there is no, unfortunately, easy answers and silver bullets out of this situation that we're in with our liberties, and so it's going to take this kind of bottom up Hoppian, what must be done type of thing, MisesMerch.com, doing what must be done since 2017 design. But that's what it's going to take. And then the logical conclusion from that, if we can get that far, is secession. It is sovereignty for the states, and then going lower and lower.
Yeah. And one thing I'm looking forward to getting back to, over the last 7-8 months, 90% of our time on XCOM and it has been about Reno. And sometimes I lurk on some of the pages of the Loser Brigade, and they think that we're all about just like taking over the Libertarian Party because we just want to control that. Well, they're projecting there because they don't have a vision of what they want to do after we have a functional Libertarian Party. Yeah. We want to get back to, like Mike said, getting those local candidates who have the strong message and who will nullify. And we want to get back to forming local and state level and below coalitions to roll back the state on, encouraging states and cities to nullify. So we're not going to, we're not about just running the Libertarian Party, off to the side. We want to put it in good hands, keep an eye on it, keep funneling our people to it, but also get back to that Hoppian local strategy.
Right. So like what I would say about this, right, is like, and I think you're absolutely right that it's like this kind of projection. I mean, I remember seeing a whole bunch of those guys were saying they go, they used to say like last year, they'd be like, if the Mises Caucus doesn't win, they're just going to all quit and leave anyway. And then every time we lost, we would just double down our efforts. And then every time they lost, they would all quit and leave the party. And you're like, who are you really talking about there? I mean, I'm not like trying to psychoanalyze people, but it does seem like you were talking about yourself a lot more than you were talking about us. So to your point, Michael, I think you're right when they say, well, what would the plan be? And you're kind of like, all right, well, first off, what the hell has the plan been so far? To what? Get 1% of the vote and hold no real political power and just watch tyranny grow more and more and more while you tell yourself how pure you are in your head? Like, okay, yeah, maybe we shouldn't be so afraid to give up on that plan. Or the party that sits on the most beautiful political philosophy is seen as a joke by everyone, including libertarians. Yet you're worried about switching the plan. Oh, okay, but here's what the plan to me really is that there's we have like a lot of very popular libertarian figures, intellectuals, personalities, things like this, who are very good at introducing these ideas to people, talking to people, persuading people, all of this stuff. I mean, we have people like, like Eric July has like hundreds of thousands of subscribers on his YouTube channel. Tom Woods, hundreds of thousands of downloads to his podcast. Michael Malice has hundreds and hundreds of thousands of followers on Twitter. Huge audience. These are people. I mean, there's Maj Touré, and there's like a bunch of other people who I'm gonna forget. I apologize for forgetting to include you in this, but like there's a whole bunch of other people, myself, like a lot of other guys who are like these big. And the Libertarian Party has essentially been run the exact opposite way that every one of these people would say it should be. Like the messaging and the way they do things and how they use their Twitter account, everything, the candidates they put forward, everything has been the exact opposite of what every single libertarian who has a lot of success would suggest that they do. And so the radical, crazy idea that we have is like, maybe we should actually create something that the libertarians who have success at persuading other people would suggest we do. We're going to try to do that, right, from the top level. Like the idea is to put forward the messaging that actually works, which is what we're all talking about with like the Ron Paul revolution stuff. And then have an organized, dedicated base with chapters in every single state across America who's going to flood the local winnable races, so that you have this messaging from up top that's bringing new people in, and then you have this base that's sending them out with a mission of what we can actually do. Exactly. That's essentially, and to your point, the whole time really like attacking the culture in a way that libertarians have just simply never been willing to even attempt to do. To try to say like, oh no, we're actually going to try to alter kind of like the cultural norms more to something that we think is conducive to a libertarian legal order. And so that's our plan. And again, like you said, it's like, okay, it's not perfect. I'm not saying that this is going to like, oh, we'll be in a free country a year from now, but we've got a real shot to make some noise here and do something incredible. And I also think this can involve coalitioning with Republicans and Democrats and people from all over the political aisle on issues that they're good on. I think that there's no reason why we shouldn't be able to like coalition with some like DeSantis Republican on fighting COVID tyranny. And there's no reason why we shouldn't be able to coalition with like an AOC progressive on like decriminalizing drugs or something like that. We can do all of this stuff, and we will do that when we have an inspired base of people who are ready to fucking fight. And right now, this is one of the things that's really been demonstrated over the last year, is that the only group in the Libertarian Party who has that is the Mises Caucus. Yeah. The other people can bitch and moan all they want to and call us whatever names they want to, but it's like, where's your passionate, inspired base? That's why you're losing. Because you don't have, and if you don't have that, you have no chance of success anyway. So now what they'll say is like, well, we don't have that because of you guys. But come on, I mean, this is like, well, how come you didn't have it before us then? Yeah. All right.
I'll make one comment on what you said, and I think we can close out. This has been an incredible night. But as far as like, you're right, they haven't had a plan. They've never had a plan. But going back to the Hoppian thing, it's the democracy. The leadership changes every 2 years. Therefore, the strategic vision changes every 2 years. Right. And really, it's probably a year and 6 months so people can get back into those positions. How the hell could you ever? The incentive just isn't there to ever put, and incentives is what drive behavior. That's like one of the foundational Austrian insights, right? Is that incentives dictate behavior. And, that's what we're changing. The democracy is the problem. Like that is why there is no plan. And that's why we're doing this, so that we can organize in such a way to have a 10-year plan, and hopefully in 10 years, I mean, I will say this, the one thing I don't have is like, well, in the 10 years, I want 11,000 city councils. Like, I don't have it that granular yet, but like, that is the goal. The democracy is the problem. We have to sort of privatize the LP and run it like a business, so that you can have business like results. And that's why these people who are like, you're the leader for life and blah, blah, blah. It's like, which one of these people, A, has ever opened a business? B, if you did open a business, say, the way to really grow this thing is to make it run democratically. That's just obviously the recipe for success. It's never happened, never will happen. It's a foolish idea. And I guess that's my comment. I really suck at outros. I got to figure that out. But
well, and before we do wrap up, we do have a couple of really awesome announcements, if that's cool, Mike, just to make sure that we can do that. Well, the first one that I want to acknowledge is that we totally hit our match goal. So as we can see tonight, we didn't just raise that $31,000. We have another $7,000 in pledges. So we blew that 30,000 way out of the water. Amazing job to everyone. And not only that, we hit our goal or we broke that record of $15,000 raised in a single day in the Mises Caucus. So amazing work to everyone. That's a new record I'm sure that we'll be beating. And I know anytime now, we're all going to be sending all that energy towards the LP right after this Reno reset. One other quick shout out I would love to give, as Dave mentioned earlier, like all of this doesn't happen unless it's a team effort. There's one individual who deserves a very big shout out, and I want to give that to Chase Venters in Texas. He's the one who built this money bomb tracker that we're seeing both in Discord and the live stream. And I think it made a hell of a difference. So thank you, everyone. And it's been fun seeing the names and the trolls coming across all of them.
Final comment from me is, Dave, that last monologue that you just went on, it sounds like the recipe for a successful presidential campaign.
Well, I never thought about it like that before. Hey, you bring up something. That's something to mull over, Michael. Perhaps the first look, man. The mission right now is get Angela McArdle elected to the LNC chair, and that's the most important thing that we should all be focusing on right now. So that's and the whole slate. But Angela is that's the most important thing. That's what's going to really send a message and change the trajectory of this party. And all of the Mises Caucus candidates, of course, they're all great. We have an incredibly talented entire team running for this stuff. But that's the most important thing right now. And then after Reno, you come badger me about all that stuff, and we'll start finalizing decisions. But it's going to be, I'll tell you this, it's going to be incredible, man. I am so excited for what the Libertarian Party is going to do in the very near future. It's just going to be awesome. And it's going to be a lot of fun as we fight to change the world.
Oh, it's going to be a lot of fun. Our guest list, as you know, is insane. We've already talked about some of the people. You're going to be there. Scott Horton's going to be there. Michael Rechtenwald is going to be there. Maj Toure is going to be there. Tom Woods is going to be there. And I guess that's the one last comment, 'cause I know some people put it in the chat, and I didn't want to focus on it, but I do want to give a shout out to Tom and say that we have got Tom's back. We are emailing the LNC. If you don't know, they're trying to cancel Tom's breakfast, and we stand with Tom. Scott has pledged to cancel his lunch speech at the convention if Tom is canceled for ridiculous reasons, non-existent reasons. And we encourage you guys, as a final call to action, to email the LNC and demand that they stop this chicanery and this ridiculousness. And we got Tom's back. We love Tom, and I've learned a lot through Tom, and I think all of us have. So we don't have to dwell on that, but please write the LNC, get them to stop this nonsense. And then other than that, thank you for your donations, and you can get your convention gear at misesmerch.com. And, we've got all kinds of sweet designs on there, including the aforementioned Hoppa doing what must be done since 2017 design. Dave, do you have any parting words?
No, man, just thank you to everybody, man. Everybody who's a part of this, and like I said, I can't wait. I'm excited. And yeah, fuck that. Tom Woods is the fucking goat and a legend, and he'll be speaking at our event. If they want to not have him at that breakfast, it's like, oh, okay. Tom won't speak at your breakfast, and instead he'll speak to 700 people at 8 p.m. and have a way better time and to give a way better, just like a better thing. You guys can't like these people like it's like this authoritarian mindset, like you want to like exercise control over us, but you can't because you don't have any power and you're not going to take out our guy. So that's that. Period.
100%.
And we do want to mention that that URL lpmc.us/Reno Reset, that's going to be open. I think another week till the 30th. So every dollar there, it's all going to go to convention mobilization. We may need to get shuttle buses from people who are staying at other hotels to get them to the thing. We want to be able to have those resources to make sure we can meet the challenges that come up on the ground out there. So we have a lot more than we thought we have, and every extra dollar we will put to use.
Awesome. Well, Dave, really appreciate you being here and supporting us. This has been just an incredible night. Thank you to Scott, to all the candidates running, to Rechtenwald, to Larry Sharp and Shane Hazel for showing up. Make sure to go out and support them, support your candidates, get that message out, and take human action, and let's take this shit over. Thanks. Good night, guys.
See ya.